Hey there, welcome to another edition of Cambridge Inside Out. I'm Robert Winters.
Judy Nathans.
Cathie Zusy.
Oh, our
Oh,
special
Cathie
guest,
Zusy. Our
Cathie
very
Zusy.
special guest,
Yes.
Cathie Zusy.
Yes.
Right?
Who's going?
And Cathie's here. Oh, well, Cathie's here because Cathie's cool.
Yes,
But
definitely.
in addition to that, we had a kind of an amazing event this past
Yes.
weekend,
On Saturday,
which was a
right?
grand opening. Oh, I was going to bring my ribbon, actually, my little piece of ribbon, right?
Oh,
The ribbon cutting for the newly restored Magazine Beach Powder House.
Magazine.
Powder Magazine. Just to distinguish it from Powder House Square in Somerville.
No, because magazines are bigger than powder houses.
Ah, okay.
see, yeah, there's a whole history I didn't even know about, really.
All right. So I suppose many people...
Which is on Magazine Beach, which is...
Yeah, it's funny, there are actually people who don't quite make the connections.
Yeah.
Right.
You
Yep.
know, a lot of people who live there for many years in Cambridge know about Magazine Street, and there's a Magazine Beach,
Right.
and why is it called that?
Well, and actually they
There's
didn't
Cathie.
realize that, so
Go ahead.
Magazine Street was the state-approved road on which you could take gunpowder. You could only transport gunpowder on state-approved roads. So gunpowder was delivered to the magazine on Magazine Street, which went all the way to the powder magazine. And
Yeah.
then there was a pier, so a lot of the gunpowder came by boat as well.
We have a picture of the map, because it was an island, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we may have to kind of dig it out a little bit here. But
Oh, I think
while
it's
No,
you're-
the
no,
second
the map is here, I think.
Yeah, okay, actually that will work here. I'll actually give a little bit
Yeah.
of a hint here. So here's a bit of a historical map here.
Okay.
I think most people will probably recognize Central Square toward the top where it says Cambridgeport and the coming together of Western
this
Avenue,
doesn't
River
work.
Street, and
Okay.
Magazine Street.
Yeah, so here, this is right here. So is this marshland around
Yeah,
here?
this is all marshland. So
Okay.
this is the Hale map from the 1830s, and you
Wow.
can see settlement was a quarter mile from the
Sure.
island. The Powder Magazine was put on the island because it was far from settlement.
And that's the longest street, because that's that goes right to it. Yeah.
Right, and it actually, in low tide, went all the way to the Powder Magazine. But it was put on that island to isolate the gunpowder. It was a public safety issue.
Sure.
You wanted it to be accessible by river, by Magazine Street, and you wanted it to be far away from
Right, and that island was
human
called,
habitation.
that was Captain's Island?
Captain's Island.
Captain's Island,
Yeah.
given to Daniel Captain Patrick in the 1630s.
I'll give it to
Okay.
him,
Yeah,
yeah.
for training the militia.
Aha, right. It's actually one of the things when you go to places like Fort Washington or Magazine Beach, whatever, sometimes because, there's been a lot of infill and, a lot of field land, what used to be old tidal estuary, you don't get a real good sense about what it would have been like
True.
in Revolutionary War times
Right.
in the early 19th century. It's all sort of obscured now,
Right,
right?
because Fort Washington was on the water.
It was on the water. but
Right,
now it's
that's
not.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it kind of throws you a little bit, right, to do
Right.
that. Actually, just like over in Kendall Square, there's a dock street, and that's because there used to be a dock. No water nearby now, but
Yeah, we can thank the Olmsteds for filling in the marshes at
They did
Magazine
that?
Right.
Beach.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, because Boston got Charles Bank, which became the Esplanade,
right.
Oh, okay.
and Cambridge said, "We want one of those. We want a water park."
Yep.
So they
Interesting.
they were in the 1890s. They were hired by Cambridge to fill in the marshes.
So that was around Captain's Island.
Right, to make it one contiguous piece of land. And then they were hired to come up with a design for Magazine Beach Park, but there was a financial panic in 1893, so it was never fully implemented.
Wow.
Yeah,
Actually, one little vestige of the way things were, we discovered when John Nardone from the Public Works Department and Owen O'Riordan, when he was like chief engineer, they were actually exploring sewers and things and finding tide gates that were way inland.
oh, interesting.
Yeah, because the thing is, that was just
Yeah.
these are so old, they go back to the point before everything was fully filled. So, you discover a lot when you go and try and
Yeah.
upgrade the sewer system.
So
Yeah.
how did you get involved with, and how did how did we end up with what we have now?
It all started with Bill August.
Okay.
So Bill August was the head of the Cambridgeport Neighborhood Association.
Right.
I was on the board, and he was a runner, and he ran by Magazine Beach Park, and he said, "It looks terrible." The powder magazine looks absolutely horrible. There are trees growing into
Is this what it looked like? Is this,
Yeah, that's-
okay.
Show a little picture here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's actually from like this is 2016. No, that's
So-
not that
so
long
that-
ago.
Not
That's
so
not
actually
long
not so
ago.
bad,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it looked horrendous. There was graffiti all over it. The roof was filled with holes. I think
Yeah.
there's a picture of that. But we had a group of about 25 of us there, and it was clear the community really wanted to take back this land. They wanted to revitalize the park.
And when was this exactly?
This was November of 2010.
Okay, so
So
almost
ever-
8 years ago.
Yeah, and so ever since then we got little grants from the New England Grassroots Environmental Fund. I don't know if you know that organization.
Is that
They're
like
based in
Haymarket? No.
no, they're based in Vermont,
Oh, okay.
and they give little grants. If you know any
Nice.
community activists that want to make an environmental change, particularly,
Oh.
it's a good organization that will give you 1,000 or 2,000 or
Which sometimes
4,000 to
it's
get
good to
started.
start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we got started with that, and we started with, I was a museum curator, so we started with exhibitions. We wrote a history early on. Nina Cohen and Marilyn Wellens
Is
wrote a
that
history.
this
I
one?
bought a copy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right here.
This is
Still
wonderful.
available
Yeah.
and online at magazinebeach.org.
Right. Magazinebeach.org is the new website. Okay.
Yeah, and then we started doing exhibitions. So we had the Morse kids do an exhibit. Then we did an exhibit at the Arts Council with Cambridge Arts. Then
Okay.
we moved it to the state,
Wow.
the city hall. Then we moved
Okay.
it to the state house.
And then all along, were you looking for more state involvement or for city? I mean, how was that all pieced
along,
together?
We were looking for both. So we've
Okay.
applied for CPA funds, I think
Community
5 times.
Preservation Act?
Community Preservation Act.
Community Preservation Act funds, I think 5 times now.
Yeah.
First to do this historic structure report, a history of the building, because you
Yeah.
want to document it first.
Now, is that online?
There is a link. If you go to the DCR website,
Okay.
you can
Yep.
find the link there. And also, I think at magazinebeach.org, I'm fairly certain the link is there as well.
there.
So that documented the building before we renovated it, and then provided a
Great,
roadmap for how to
sure.
renovate it.
Yeah.
Then we got funding to fix the roof, fix the interior, and that's what we were celebrating
Yeah.
on Saturday.
So
that we
when
just
was it
finished.
actually last used by the public? Was it in the 20s, 1920? Or
In the 50s,
Oh, really?
DCR turned it into a garage, a utility shed
okay.
and garage.
But it had been a bathhouse.
But it had been a bathhouse,
Serving when
right?
Magazine Beach was
Right.
an active beach. It was-
Right.
Which we can
so-
show maybe, but there are wonderful pictures. It's a real beach. I
Yeah.
love swimming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Um, but at some point, it just wasn't used at all.
Right. it
So
just- yeah.
in the gunpowder was removed like in 1870. People became, I don't know if we can get back to this image, but
Which one?
by like the 1870s, settlement had encroached upon
Maybe
the
that's the next
island.
map. Is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you
Right.
can see that settlement had moved.
Oh, this
closer
one,
to the
sure.
powder
Oh, right.
magazine.
Yeah. Now you have
Yeah.
all of this.
And it got
yeah.
even closer by the 1870s. This may be more like 50s, 60s.
Sure.
But people started freaking out. It was a
It's too close
public
to
safety
sure.
issue because this is explosive material. So it took 10 years, but the
They-
powder was removed.
They've stopped taking public powder, which is interesting. That
Yeah.
my daughter said, "Why did they have to have public?" Well, I guess because everybody had guns. I mean, really.
And you
They
didn't
did.
necessarily want to store it at home.
But what?
necessarily.
Right.
Everyone had guns.
People had guns, and then ships in Boston Harbor.
Well,
There were pirates at sea, so you needed gunpowder. So they would take the
Okay.
gunpowder off the ships, bring the powder, I
Right.
would think mostly by boat to Magazine Beach.
Uh-huh.
And then they would store it there. And Peter Tufts, who was the powder keeper, kept very, very careful records. And
Yeah. One of the things when we were at this celebration on Saturday, I was talking with Charlie Sullivan, who's the head of the Cambridge Historical Commission, and he asked me, he says, "Do you know why they built the powder house, powder magazines and powder houses the way they did with these ridiculously thick walls?" Well, the obvious thing you would guess is
keep-
sort of half correct,
For
which
explosions.
is that if things,
Yeah.
this stuff can explode. But the other part that I never thought about is they put very lightweight roofs, so that if there was an explosion, it would blow the roof up, and the explosion would be shot upward rather than outward, which would have killed people.
Huh.
interesting, yeah, the walls are 4 feet thick.
4 feet thick.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, they're very, very thick. And
Yeah.
then there was a brick wall around it.
Around it,
Yeah.
right, yeah.
That was 1 foot thick and 8 feet high. And then, of course, there was a copper weather vane, and there were
Yeah.
and there was a lightning rod
I
on
would
the
hope
very
that
top.
you'd want that, because that would be one hell of a lightning strike.
Yeah, that would be bad.
Pretty dramatic, yes.
Oh, I
Yeah.
guess that picture's
yeah.
on
Yeah,
the
yeah.
site. We
Yeah.
don't have
So,
that here, yeah.
Yes. So there was a period when the magazine was empty for here's a picture of what it
Yeah,
looked
I was
like
trying to
here.
get that on the site
Yeah,
itself.
there we
if
go.
can click
You
on
can
that.
see the wall around it, and it had some windows, and it actually had like a linoleum carpet, and there were strict rules, like the powder keeper couldn't have shoes with a buckle, because a buckle might start a spark.
Or you may have
Right?
static electricity, yeah.
Mm.
that's
Yeah.
right. You're
So
literally
Yeah,
on a powder keg.
yeah, you were on
Yeah.
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 So then wild boys have always been attracted to this site. We were talking about that earlier.
Right, yeah.
And they realized copper nails were valuable, so they started once it was a derelict structure, right? It wasn't being used anymore.
Right, copper,
They would
yeah.
go down to the captain's island and pull out the copper nails, and the roof collapsed, and the building fell into ruin. And that was our first image of it as a ruin.
Right.
Right.
And in the 1890s, it was a ruin. So the Olmsteds were hired to convert the ruin into a bathhouse for
Right.
men and boys, and it's where men and boys would change before they'd go swimming in the
There's
river.
Right.
there's a photo. I don't
Right.
know how you can see that, but that's
Yeah,
well,
let's see if we can
1902.
do that.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, just a little bit of this. And I
Yeah,
actually saw one
that's
figure that
interesting,
said
yeah.
in 1901, annual attendance 60,000.
Yeah, and actually attendance was at about the 60,000 level through the 20s, and then it was the favorite
It's
swimming
amazing.
beach on the
Yeah.
river
I bet.
until the river beaches closed in '49,
Right.
because people realized how polluted
Polluted
the
because
water was.
Right.
nobody was controlling sewage outflows from different communities. That was actually
Right.
only the last 20 years that they've
Right,
actually.
and you've got to remember there were
Yeah.
abattoirs, there were slaughterhouses.
Oh,
That's right.
way
across
up on the other end by the Cambridge Boat
Park
Club.
on Brighton side
Right.
was
It's
slaughterhouse.
a big slaughterhouse,
and
right?
standard practice both there and on the Millers River over by East Cambridge was you basically chuck the remnants after the
Right.
slaughter out for the tide to take away.
Right. So, and you've got to remember that also the Charles River Dam, which went up like around
1910.
1910,
Right.
that turned the river into a freshwater lake. So
Right.
the tides had cleaned out the river prior, but after the dam was built, there was no longer the flushing of the river.
Couldn't
So
happen.
anything that was there stayed
Stay there.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Here's that
Yeah.
picture that if you wanted
Oh,
to show
good,
that,
good,
yeah,
good.
because it's
Yeah,
from
so
the
here we
site.
go.
So
Yeah.
that
So the
now
picture
is
of the-
what it
This
was when it was fully functioning. Is that?
Yeah, so Nina Cohen is an amazing
Yeah.
sleuth. She found all the receipts for building the powder magazine, all the invoices.
Amazing. That's all been saved.
Yeah, at the archives, and so she from the receipts and from newspaper articles that she found, this is what we think the magazine looked like. Bill Finch of Finch and Rose, who was the preservation architect that helped to guide the restoration, developed this rendering. But you can see there's a little window because you'd want a little light.
Right.
There are
Yeah.
the buttresses to make it.
Are those layers on top? Different layers of the roof, or
Well,
is it
it
just
was-
showing how it was built?
So there was a vaulted roof,
Okay.
of brick, and then
Yeah.
over that would have been wood and then slate.
But the red part looks like it's like a curved.
Oh, that
kind of thing.
would have been the brick.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that would
Alright.
have been the.
Yeah.
And inside there was a wall down the center, so
That's right,
private
yeah.
gunpowder was separate from
Exactly.
public
From the
gunpowder.
exactly. Right. Which
Yeah.
makes sense.
And part of being
Nice.
a powder magazine keeper was you'd also turn the kegs over to make sure they
Oh my goodness.
stayed.
Did anybody?
So it was a
like-
real job.
It was a real
It's a
job.
real
It's like,
job.
so there was like a little house for the keeper on site. There was a
Right.
privy. There was a
Yeah.
well.
But no one was killed doing that job, were they?
No,
Yeah,
not
she
that
did-
we.
she didn't
no,
mention
we know
it.
about it.
She didn't mention that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
No.
All
All
right.
right, so just sort of rolling it
Yeah.
into the present.
Sure. Let me get back to the present.
So you folks were working cooperatively with the DCR,
With DCR.
City of Cambridge and Community Preservation Act, other partners as well.
Right. The
Right.
Cambridge Redevelopment Authority has been a partner at the park.
Historical
the Solomon
Commission,
Foundation.
very much
The
as
Historical
well.
Commission has been an amazing supporter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, to sort of bring us more or less to where we are today, which was this sort of grand opening with the ribbon cutting, which was
Here we
great
go.
fun.
This is a nice
Yeah.
picture of
Right?
the inside.
Actually, here we go.
Yeah.
Picture. Oh yeah, actually, before we
Oh,
show that picture,
okay.
Do you want to show the
the-
derelict?
it was just a few years ago.
Yeah.
I remember you had an open house there, and it was the first time I ever set foot inside the building.
Right.
And this is actually what it looked like. That now I didn't put a date on this one in here.
I never
Yeah.
saw it like that.
But
So
it-
that was art forming. This was actually an art installation.
Oh,
I mean, there's
oh.
the cones on the
Yeah,
floor
okay.
are by
Okay, so
Danielle
somebody-
Swaff from Cambridgeport. And then remember we had cloth, we had some hanging
Yeah.
cloth
Yeah.
sound sculptures by art
Oh,
forming.
I remember seeing
Right.
that.
Yeah.
I remember
So
seeing
in
that.
this area here, this is the L. So this is the area that was added to the magazine when it was made a bathhouse. So this is where
Right.
you'd rent a towel.
Okay.
There were bathrooms, there
Yeah.
were showers.
Wow.
There was a public health nurse.
Wow.
And yeah, this is now bathrooms, and it'll be sort of a kitchen area because we need a new
Yeah.
tenant for
Yes,
this building.
that's going to be amazing.
So at least we have multiple shots here, but we could just use this one right here. So this is a
Yeah.
picture of what it looked like on Saturday,
On Saturday.
which
Yeah.
was snazzy.
Yeah,
Look
Like
at that
seriously
roof.
spectacular.
Look
and-
at that roof. Oh,
Yeah,
Yeah.
the roof is amazing, and
I
you
love
can-
the floor. It's just polished or sounded.
Right, and actually it's a
clean,
nice
yeah.
neutral color floor too.
Yeah.
So it's sealed and functional and good, and it's got electrical power. It's got plumbing.
And the bathrooms will be on the sides. You can't see that. There's
Right.
rooms like on each side,
yeah, there
right?
are two ADA accessible bathrooms in the L. So
Okay.
as you enter from the Memorial Drive side on the
Right.
right.
On the right. Okay.
And then what you're not being able to see, unfortunately, in this picture, it's a great picture, but is the
The other
river
way.
itself, because that's what's really amazing.
Do we have? We
Yeah.
don't have any. of
No,
that
we don't
yet.
have that view, but
Yeah, I
just
don't have that
imagine
here.
it as you open, as you're looking out towards the river from the other end of the magazine, you see the river.
It's spectacular. Actually,
Yeah.
one of the reasons why I didn't put some of those photos is when the light was so bright, looking
Yeah.
through dark space, that it was sort of bleaching out the image.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And it is kind of spectacular. That fence this is also from Saturday. The fence, the cyclone fence that's around there, that's just there for the short term. That
Yeah.
Right.
once everything's sort of spiffied up, then that goes away as well.
Well, that goes away when we find a tenant. So we need to
Right.
find a tenant. If you are
So when you
interested,
say a tenant, what do you mean by that?
So-
I mean, a temporary, long-term, a food tenant. What kind of tenant?
okay, so we've done all these interviews and surveys with
Uh-huh.
members of the community, and what people want
Uh-huh.
is a food concession. They want a performance venue. They want a meeting space. They'd like to have a rental, maybe a rental at night.
That's a
that would
lot
help.
of things for not a very big space, but.
Well, no. I'm thinking it might
Oh.
be like if it was like a community-oriented tenant, you could be serving food, inviting people
So
to
in
come
other
and
words,
do
the
events
tenant
there.
might be more like a manager, and then they subcontract with things,
Maybe.
or.
And maybe it would be a rental at night to make money to help
Yeah.
maintain
And,
the park.
They could
and the
do-
permit,
actually,
and the
that's a great
permitting is
idea.
okay for that?
Well, the thing is that it's
Yeah.
in addition to the building, if you did things during some of the summer months, you could have an event which was centered around the building.
You could have a tent.
You could have a wedding there. You could,
Well, once you get into weddings, then it gets a little
Yeah,
problematic.
no, well,
I'm not
I've
sure.
had
Yeah.
people call me and ask about
Yeah, like the
weddings,
Well-
ask
Beach Ball
about bar
Club.
mitzvahs,
Yeah, I know, but
reunions.
Yeah.
I guess you have
Yeah.
to really
But you
be
have plumbing
careful of that.
fixtures, and you could actually do cooking and something. If you outfit
I'm
it
thinking
accordingly.
more like the district hall model, where it's more community organizations that rent it out and they have meetings, but also you could have an event, you could have a fundraiser, but not necessarily
Yeah.
personal weddings and stuff. I think that gets dicey.
But we need to find someone that will manage
Well,
the
that's what I'm
facilities.
saying,
So,
yeah,
so
that's what
DCR,
they, yeah.
So if that's you, contact me, and I'll share your information with DCR, because DCR is looking for a tenant for that building.
Actually, I heard they were looking possibly for what Leo Roy, who's the commissioner, said,
Yeah.
a pop-up tent, meaning for just the short term for this season.
He would love to have
Oh,
someone.
just to
He'd
fill
love
out
to
the
have
rest
the
of the
magazine
season.
open this season, and that person would get it for very little, the magazine, but they would need to maintain the public bathrooms.
Is it ready then to be,
I
thought-
think within a
Close.
week or so, it's
Really?
almost ready. The bathrooms,
Okay.
just a little bit has to happen to the bathrooms, and it's ready to go.
Right.
And it's
Yeah.
permitted for kitchen and cooking use and all that?
We don't have
Well,
gas yet, but gas will be coming shortly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it could be
So it's
ice cream.
electrical,
It could
okay.
be iced tea, lemonade.
People were talking about being able to get a hot dog. I think I shouted out a chili dog.
Yeah,
right?
that would
Well,
be
I'm thinking
great.
like food trucks have portable things that they take off of their food trucks sometimes, that they are
Yeah.
all self-contained, so something like
You know,
that.
there are
For
creative
this,
ways
for
to
this
sort of
summer.
do both,
Yeah.
you know.
For this summer, I think that would be, maybe
Yeah.
an option. But
Yeah, it would be great. And the
Exciting.
terrace outside, so there's the space in the building, and then the terrace outside
Right.
is a fabulous place to watch the sunset.
But does that belongs to the public
that's
too,
good.
though?
do you
Oh,
wanna
back, and go back, you
Which
missed
one?
the terrace, yeah.
Yeah.
Here.
So the terrace, and you should
Okay.
know, so Magazine Beach Partners, one of the things we're hoping for, so this has been a month of celebration. So we had
Right.
a ribbon cutting for the spray deck a couple weeks ago. We had the ribbon cutting for the Powder Magazine on Saturday. We just had a groundbreaking for the canoe kayak
Yes,
launch
I
in
saw
Outlook.
that, and
Right.
I love the Adirondack chairs spread around.
Yeah, I know. And we have
yeah.
a new willow.
Yeah.
So people
So
are
will
very
there
happy
be
at the park.
tables on this?
So
what are you thinking?
eventually,
without them
hopefully, the
being stolen?
pop-up tenant would. Well, you know what? We've only had one chair.
I was wondering
disappear,
about that, really, yeah.
And then someone added 2 chairs.
We'll see,
There you
okay.
go.
So the chair people are being
I
respectful
guess it
about
could be
the
something
chairs.
where it's small enough that they take it in at night. It doesn't have to be a permanent, unless they were, you know what I'm saying? You could have a few tables and whoever is managing it could bring them in.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is so exciting.
Yeah.
So that's, I mean,
Yeah.
that, one thing is worth pointing out. I mean, though this ribbon cutting on Saturday was specifically, actually, it was the 200th anniversary of
Yes,
the magazine.
of the whole,
Yes.
yeah.
Of the right?
Yeah.
And it was, I think MDC, which is now DCR, also said, they've been around for what, 125?
125 years.
Yeah. So these are like multiple birthdays happening here. They
Yeah.
had
Yeah.
birthday cake. It was great.
Yeah.
And-
I wanted to have a hat on top of the Powder Magazine, but
right.
we
Oh.
didn't get around to that.
So here's some of the
Yeah.
sort of the
These
main,
are,
the main
these are
players.
the dignitaries.
Right. So this
Cathie and then the guys.
John
Yeah.
Boncore,
Joseph Boncore.
Joseph
Boncore, I know,
Boncore,
he's my
Senator.
state
actually, yeah.
senator. Leo Roy, who's a
The
DCR commissioner.
Jay
uh,
Livingston,
Our
Your
state
state
rep.
rep. Louis DePasquale,
some
the
of our
city
city, yeah.
manager,
Well, actually for our
and Mayor Mark McGovern.
Yeah,
Right.
we were very honored they were all there, and Charlie
Yes.
Sullivan, who's
And
not
And
Charlie-
Charlie
right.
Sullivan's not in that picture,
but
but we
he's in
certainly
some,
have him in
he's
some
in
of
the
the other,
he's in this
in
one.
some of the other
Oh,
pictures
no,
as
is
well.
he in this one? No, he's
Maybe
not.
not
Yeah,
in
no,
that
he-
one,
no,
but,
he
but he's
wasn't-
certainly
No,
in
he's
some
definitely
of
in
the
them.
other ones.
Well,
Here's
there's a
Charlie.
big one of them. Yeah.
Yeah. So whoops,
Yeah.
I just beheaded him there. How are you? Yeah, it's Charlie Sullivan, one of my personal favorite
Oh,
people working for the
well,
city.
he always has something real to say,
Yeah,
doesn't he?
yeah, it's
No,
amazing.
he's
Yeah.
incredible. I mean, I did there was a thing that the Porter Square Neighbors Association put together a couple weeks ago on the history of Porter Square, and Charlie was the only person to give it, and it was just great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Some
who you
other-
want.
yeah.
That's who you really want to
Yeah.
hear speak is Charlie.
And actually, one thing to point out here is that this was a ribbon cutting for specifically the the new roof, the new building, the new floor, the almost ready for occupancy.
Yeah.
Magazine building, but the thing is that in relatively recent times, you
Yeah.
also
Look at
put
this
together,
beautiful spray pool.
right?
Yeah,
look
this
at
is
that.
this is a gift from DCR, and I can't tell you how happy the families
What
are
I like,
with
it's
the
not
spray
just
deck.
families. You can actually be an adult. Although my daughter said, "Don't be a guy just hanging around." But anyway, you could go walk through that because it reminds
Yeah.
me on the Greenway. There's like those. Have you ever walked down?
Yeah, it's
the
very
Roseway?
it's
Yeah.
very refreshing, and
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
open every day, 9:30 to
Seven.
7 at night.
Yeah, there was a
Yeah.
fellow there
Yeah.
when I was there on Saturday. I said, he was walking right next to me. I said, "You're thinking about it, aren't you?" And he goes, "Yeah, I'm thinking about it."
Why don't
Yeah.
you're not?
Yeah.
Of course
Right.
you can go in.
And there's so many families that picnic at the park.
Yeah.
On the 4th
Actually-
of July, there were hundreds and hundreds of people.
Yeah, you have a picture. It's
Yeah,
up, it's
Yeah.
further
I
up.
think just to sort of get a feel for this is that,
Yeah, there you
Yeah.
go.
you know,
Yeah.
just to kind of, I think it's sort of a nice typical picture of what a beautiful place this is really
Yeah.
becoming.
And this was a birthday party for a 4-year-old. This was
Oh, so this
I
wasn't
met Liz
just-
that
yeah.
organized it. Yeah.
Mhm.
So
And
a
you
lot
can
of
see the spray deck in the background.
yeah, it's
and-
almost like fireworks.
Right,
isn't it?
and the magazine is just off to the left in this
But
picture.
before we end this segment though with you, we don't have any photos, but I know that you were out there in the heat, and I would have gone out if I could. But you planted. What do you call that? The swale, the east.
in
I
the
mean,
swales, we just put
it's
in all
just-
these wetlands. The city of Cambridge
people
gave
have
us
got to take a walk down there by the baseball fields. It's just amazing, and yeah, we have to get some photos of those.
yeah.
This is like a 15 to 20 year project actually of involving
Yeah.
with the city, even before Magazine Beach Partners played their role.
Because of the flooding
Where it used to be
issue there?
soggy
Yeah.
baseball fields, they completely working with DCR. The city contributed a lot of money, and they basically handled the drainage and made it so that the fields were pretty much usable most all the time now,
Yeah.
right?
But how about the invasive plants?
and
When
so
did
with
that all
that-
start,
so
with
the-
pulling
to
out?
me that,
And
I
how do
think
you pronounce that?
Phragmites.
Phragmites.
So I think it's fascinating. So two
Yeah.
retention basins were created. One became filled with volunteer trees,
Yeah.
and we had Turner Construction came in and cleared them out this spring.
Mm.
The other with Phragmites, so working with the Charles River Watershed Association and the
Yeah, you
Conservancy.
said 150 volunteers. Where'd you get them from? All those places?
Actually, we've had over 500 people
Oh my
working at
gosh.
those swales now, but
Wow.
from all over the place. And then we had all
Amazing.
these kids
Yeah.
that were helping us plant new wetland plants
Yeah,
in the
I
swales.
saw them. It's just
Yeah, it
beautiful.
was great
It's
to
like,
see.
What a meadow.
Yeah.
It's
And
beautiful.
so in addition to spray deck, the powder house, the wetlands,
And then we're gonna have a
Meadows.
kayak, the kayak,
turbident
and the
panels.
kayak, everything.
And now, many people may remember down there where the cottage farm station was, there was, the pump station, there was a place you could launch a boat. And some of the reconfiguration kind of changed that, but now they're kind of
They're gonna actually,
Yeah, so it'll be
bringing it back.
it'll be 30 feet wide, and we'll have an outlook. So we're trying to encourage engagement with the river,
Just
and
beautiful.
we're not done yet. So
No.
after that,
Ah.
we're still hoping to expand the patio, open up the terrace. We have other ideas for things we want to do.
All right,
Because
well,
it's Cambridge's second largest park. It's 17
Yep.
it's
acres.
just amazing. It's beautiful.
We need
really
it as
is.
an open space
Yep.
to retreat to.
All right,
Yeah.
well, this is gonna end in a few seconds, so this is just so many, take a walk, get
Yeah,
down there.
you really got it. If you haven't been down there,
Really.
go down the Magazine
I walked
Beach
down on one of the
any
hot
day of the week.
days, not this past, the weekend before, and I was just like, where am I? It was just beautiful.
There's a
Yeah,
nice
that's really
breeze,
Yeah.
great
Yeah.
Really great.
sunsets.
Yeah,
Well,
no,
thank you
it's
so
absolutely
much, and it's
fabulous. Thanks a lot, Cath.
magazinebeach.org, right?
Yes.
Magazine,
We'll do
just
that.
go
So
there and then
we'll
look
be
out
back in a few
for
minutes.
everything.
Thank you.